We're going to go ahead and get started. So, what I need you to do is I need you to say,
Good morning. I would like to get.
I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order.
Thank you. Just stay there for a second. And this is Koa Best, and he's with PAC 16 and 17. Thank you for correcting me. And they will be presenting the colors now. So why don't you go join your PAC? If you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Color detail, across the colors. Scout salute. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color detail, return to ranks. Audience, you may be seated.
Hey, Cub Scouts, would you come introduce yourself? Would you like to introduce yourself? Okay.
Hi, my name is Charlie.
What rank are you, Charlie?
Oh, I'm not a rank yet, but I'm going to be one. But first, I'm going to be a Lion Scout.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jack. I have the rank of Bear Scout.
Hello, I'm Hunter and I'm rank Weeblo. I'm from PAC 17.
I am Koa Best, and I am also a Weeblo, and I am from PAC 17.
Now, I have a question for each one of you. Are you going to get your Eagle Scout? All right, excellent. Excellent. Sure. Great. Thank you so much. Mr. Mika, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Clausen.
Here.
Mr. Poff.
Here.
Ms. Phillips.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Ms. Upchurch.
Here.
To view this meeting's presentation documents, please access Board Docs. A link to the Board Docs website can be found via the D38 website, www.lewispalmer.org, on the Board of Education meeting page. I'm going to read the public comment statement. Per Board Policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings, there is one time for public comment, and it is limited to 30 minutes. In an effort to allow all who wish to speak, the amount of time dedicated to each speaker will be dependent upon the number of people who sign up, with the entire public comment period not exceeding 30 minutes. If 10 people or fewer sign up, each person will have 3 minutes to address the board. The sign-up sheet for public comments will be available at 5 p.m. in the Learning Center meeting room. All speakers will be asked to limit their remarks to the time allotted, based on the total number of speakers, not to exceed 3 minutes per person. If a group of people have a similar concern, the board requests that a spokesman for that group be selected. The board respects the rights of the public to speak on matters concerning the operation of the schools. We believe that public comments that are critical of staff, however, often cause unnecessary harm to these employees and to the education of our students. As a result, we prefer that members of the public that share any criticisms of employees in writing with the superintendent, who is responsible for supervising all staff and then involving the board as necessary. If you choose instead to address a personnel issue publicly, please understand the board does not endorse the comments of any speaker and reminds all who speak that they assume the risk of legal action by district employees in the event that the affected employee believes that any comments about them violate legal standards. Lastly, keep in mind we have K through 12 students in the audience. Please keep all comments appropriate to our audience. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone out tonight. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. Ms. Namika?
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Poff.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye.
Ms. Prof, we'll give a few minutes to you.
I'm going to go over here. So I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our new principal for Lewis Palmer High School, and I'm trying to figure out where, there she is. Come on up, Bridget. So many of you will recognize Bridget. She is not new to Lewis Palmer. In addition to being a Lewis Palmer student herself, she graduated just, a few years ago from Lewis Palmer. She was a Lewis Palmer student throughout her career. But she also has served as the assistant principal for Lewis Palmer High School since 2015. During that time, there's some amazing things that she's done to organize the community and do some work that really benefits our kids. Among those, she has facilitated the Staff Connection Committee, the Student Leadership Committee. She led and became a certified trainer in Sources of Strength, and she is actually our lead staff developer or facilitator for both of our high schools right now. She developed and coordinated Ranger Roundup at Lewis Palmer High School. She also helped implement a peer tutoring program and created the community conversations that led to the Tri-Lakes Youth Mental Health Coalition, which is a coalition that brings together multiple resource groups in our area to begin to talk around the conversation of how do we support our kids, all of our kids, to give them a more positive experience and address some of those issues we have with social media and everything that are, to some degree, eroding some of our happiness factor in our youth right now. Before this time, when she was assistant principal, she served as an academic interventionist at Pine Creek High School in D20. She also served as a gifted and talented coordinator as well as a social science teacher in Manitou Springs from 1996 to 2012. And before that, she served as a social science teacher at Bradshaw Mountain High School in Arizona from 1993 to 1996. I think I've probably given away more about your lifetime than maybe you want even people to know. But I can tell you we're very excited. And one of the things that Bridget said loudly and clearly in her interview process and what we have seen in her work with our schools, with our community, and with our kids is she is a very strong advocate for supporting kids and making sure kids have the best possible experience in high school. So we're really excited to welcome Bridget in her new role as the principal of Lewis Palmer High School. So if you want to say a few words, and then we'll give you a round of applause.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I am very nervous and very excited as well. And I know that it is a huge responsibility, so I thank you all that you trust me, maybe more than I trust myself right now. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
So congratulations, Bridget.
And I neglected to recognize Mr. Summers, I should say Dr. Summers. He is our new superintendent and will be taking the reins of that position in the foreseeable future. We now have the privilege of recognizing the National Elementary Chess Championship team. And Mr. Wise, my guess is that's you? There it is. All right. We're now privileged to have a Lewis Palmer Robotics team presentation.
Craig Johnson. I'm the head coach of the Palmer Ridge High School robotics team. It's a privilege to be here today, so thank you for allowing us to be on the agenda here. We've got a lot of great news and success that we'd like to share with the school district here. We participate in something that's called the FIRST National or International Robotics Program. FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. We've got a team here of representing Lewis Palmer and Palmer Ridge High School. We are organized like a small company, so we have a chief executive officer, a chief technical officer, and a chief financial officer managing that budget, the all-important budget. And I would like to introduce them after I introduce our coaches, our other coaches and mentors. So Coach Mike Hinkle over here. And we have two mentor parents who help us out, Ben Griffin and Matt Middleton, that help the team out. So now I'd like to introduce you to the student leadership because it is a student-led organization and they'll take it from here. So Mr. Brendan Wyan is our chief executive officer for this upcoming season as from Lewis Palmer. We have James York, who is from Palmer Ridge High School, is a senior graduating this year, and he was the chief technical officer. And holding our sponsor sign over here is our new incoming chief financial officer. She's embracing those sponsors because it is a funded through student or sponsors themselves to our program here. So let me turn it over to Brendan, who's going to tell you a little bit about our program.
So hi, I'm Brendan Wyan. So as he said, I am going to be a senior this next year. I will also be the CEO. So that means we have 35 kids from PR and LP. I am going to LP. So what happens is that in 6 weeks, we get a task of what our robot has to do. That all starts on January 5th. And starting with that day in those 6 weeks, we have to, 1, raise all the money for our robot, and then 2, build a robot. So in these 6 weeks, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of having fun. So something that our robots usually do is that this year, our robot had to, 1, deliver cargo ships, and deliver hatch panels as well. So the hatch panels are these circular discs right behind me. Those had to go relatively high. They had to go about 3 feet, 6 feet, and 9 feet. And then after we delivered a hatch panel to block it and make sure the balls didn't fall out, then we had to deliver our cargo itself. So we had to shoot these out of our robot and into the rocket to score points and win. So what happened this year is that we were actually able to make it to the finals in the Colorado Regional, and then after we helped win the winning team, we were able to go to Houston during April and lead in the championship. As well as finishing in the finals in Colorado, we also finished in the finals at Utah. We placed second there, but even if we didn't win, we would have still gone to the finals. And at Houston itself, with all the 450 robotics teams from around the world, we ended up finishing with a winning record of 6-4, and then also continuing on and having fun. So I'll give the microphone over to our CTO, James.
Hello, I'm James York. As you might have heard, I was the CTO of this past year building this robot, and I've been on this team for the last 4 years, my freshman all the way through my senior year. It's been a great time. And so you can see this great robot that we have here that was built and brought us to Houston for Worlds, which is great. But FIRST has a saying that we have students that build the robots, but we use the robots to build the students, because the entire purpose of this program is to give all these students that you see here the life skills to go on and do something great with their lives. And I know personally I've learned a lot from this program. I don't think I even would have gone for computer engineering had I not even gone and joined the programming team on a whim. And so, as you can see, we go out to many different organizations, many Girl Scouts places, and try to inspire young people to go into STEM and join and really discover this wonderful world that we have here where everyone can learn. And so through FIRST, they offer almost $80 million in scholarships. This program is really good for internships if you're trying to apply for them in college. They really enjoy seeing that you've done this because they see that you've built a hand-on thing. And especially in our district, the students really learn because you might see these amazing coaches we have, but it's all student-led. We have It's all student-led and organized. All the meetings we organize, and this is almost all built by students, and it's just kind of amazing.
So going back to me, our robot would actually like to say something if it's ready right now. So more about our robot. We decided to name our robot Matt Damon. Matt Damon, yes, after the hit star. So here goes our robot. So to finish us up here, we would like to thank all of our sponsors and most importantly the school district itself for letting us use Grace Best as our workshop and for also donating us 5 computers to use throughout our next season. And then once we get done here, we have something we do for all our sponsors is that we have our own little coins here. So in the military, they use, these are called challenge coins. So what you do is that you have your coins, and then whoever doesn't have the coin gets someone a nice, refreshing soda pop. So we'll be presenting the board members here all of their coins as they are now our sponsors.
Unfortunately, I know this man's 3 drinks right now, I think.
Okay, so as they're going out, and go ahead, those that have coins, please go out to deliver those.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So those coins themselves were made by Griffin Stevenson. Raise your hand, Griffin. Griffin took the initiative just to make those coins, and they're only given out to special recognition situations. So it was a fantastic year. We've been around for 8 years. We appreciate all the support again from the school district itself. And absolutely, without the sponsors, none of this program is possible. And we appreciate all of the support from our parents who decide that they're going to help out from a coaching standpoint as well. We put in over 3,600 hours building this robot, and we're very proud of that at this point. So we just wanted to say again, thank you for the opportunity to share that story with you.
are there? Current seniors? None of you?
We had 6 seniors,
seniors.
but they're all out doing college stuff.
Senior stuff, I
Yeah,
understand.
they're done with school.
So of those, 4 of them are going into, 2 are going to the Air Force Academy, 2 are going into ROTC, another one's going to UCCS local, and then you're going to transfer school line. So it's all STEM related. So it's all
Right.
good stuff.
That's where I was headed. Thank you.
We're going to have a 5-minute intermission. Okay, we are back on the record. We will now have public comments. We'll go ahead and start with Janet Breton. Apologize if I mispronounced that.
Can you hear me? Yeah, it's actually Jeanette Breton.
Okay.
And the robotics team actually did not do themselves justice. I actually am a proud sponsor of the team. I'm also a parent, proud. I'm also a member of the business advisory and some of the other technology advisories for the district. But what you saw here was a robot that takes a lot to build. And I actually want to have I was told to put in the middle, but it'd be easier if it just went this way. And I apologize for not having enough for the audience here. But it's pictures of the field that the team plays on. It's the size of a tennis court, okay? And they weren't able, because of the snow, to bring the rocket, okay, and the ship that they have to put things in, that cargo and that hatch panel. But there's two pictures. One is of the field and how big it is, and they play with 3 alliances. And the second is an overview of one of the 6 fields at the championship. And you can see the crowd there. And what I want to impress on this is that this is a sports of the mind, okay? This is, to those kids, STEM put into a sport. And there's a lot of us that like the basketball and the football, these physical sports, but to these kids, that's their sport. And we need to support that, okay? One way that we can support this, and as a sponsor, I've seen what this team has had to do, is every practice, they're having to get out the robot, the rocket, the cargo ship that they've built with their working tools out of a 10 by 10 closet. Each practice. Put it up, take it out, and their tools, okay? So to support them, I think it would behove us to give them some kind of fixed workspace. Can be at Grace Best where they are right now, or it's in support of some of the other areas. You know, what if all of our engineering classrooms, our art classrooms, our electronics classrooms, our wood shop classrooms had to put everything in a closet at the end of a class. And then in the morning, get it back out. These kids are wasting 25% of their time and of their energy too to get things out and put them back up for a shared workspace. So I'm just asking for more support for that fixed workspace for this team. They only had about 1/3 of their team here because of finals and snow, of course, probably. But there's 30 plus more members, and it's fully team driven. And it's not just the techies. There's also, as Coach Johnson mentioned, there's also the business side of it, the marketing, there's computer coding going on, there's scouting of other teams.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Cynthia Fong-Smith.
Hello. I'd like to start off with an informal poll. So raise your hand if you were ever tired or needed more sleep. Feel free to raise your hand out there as well. Okay. Allow me to share a fictitious scenario with you. It's Monday morning and your alarm goes off. You hit the snooze button. Gives you a little bit more time. You hit the snooze button again and the alarm goes off. It's time to get up. Now you really have to put things into high gear and get going. Not a good day to start, not a good way to start the day, because you have meetings, you've got budget review, you've got presentations, errands, walking the dog, making dinner, carpooling, and the list goes on. And you've saved the best for last. You end the evening by attending a school board meeting, like this one. How about Monday morning if you're a parent and you need to get your children ready for school? For those of you who are parents, you know it comes as no surprise that they don't want to get up either. And so it goes. You help getting lunches, backpacks, paraphernalia for soccer games and basketball games. It's not a good day for them to start either, because they have then examinations, having to learn new materials, homework, and again, that evening their parents are out at a school board meeting. Is this really fact or fiction? I would say that it's not. It is fiction. It is fact, and it's a real issue. It's sleep deprivation. And there's something in this district that can help solve that issue. The next public comment will be given by my friend and a fellow parent of students in this district, Renee Gargas, who will share with you a solution to this problem and its impact on the health, well-being, and academic performance of our students.
Renee Gargas.
Is there one for everybody?
Yes, there should be. Yeah.
Thank you for your valuable time this evening. The handout has more information and documentation about this topic that can be covered in 3 minutes, and let's face it, nobody wants to hear me talk longer than 3 minutes. I'm here to talk tonight about changing the current school start times. Our common goal as a school board, parents, teachers, and administrators is to set our kids up for maximum success to ensure their futures. Our high schoolers and middle schoolers' sleep cycles change at these ages, which is documented by many leading experts in sleep. This causes them to be less alert at the current school start times. I don't know about you, but when I'm tired, I'm definitely not at my personal best. No different than for our kids with their futures depending on their personal best. Since August of 2014, the American Academy of Pediatrics has released numerous statements urging school districts to consider later start times to reduce the risk of sleep deprivation experienced by students starting at traditional start times. Chronic sleep loss has been documented to have a negative impact on academic performance, increased reliance on stimulants, and decreased physical and mental health. Several high-ranked Colorado school districts have already implemented these changes in their school start times: Littleton, Brighton, Cherry Creek, and Greeley-Evans. Plus, other districts are currently considering this implementation, including Jeffco Public School District, which is the state's second largest school district, and Thompson. So I am here tonight to formally request D38 continue the work on the feasibility of changing the current start times and establish a rollout if feasibility is met. Let's build on the community survey that was supported by a majority of participants that was reviewed in January 2018 at the school board meeting. I think establishing an ad hoc committee to assist in the investigation will provide maximum resources. This could include interested district residents, students, teachers, administrators, professionals with expertise in sleep medicine, and a D38 school board liaison. Together, we can make a change to set our kids up for future success. I think that's something we can all get behind. Thanks for your time.
Jackie Burhans.
Hi, I'm Jackie Burhans, and my son graduated from Palmer Ridge High School in 2017, previously went to Lewis Palmer Middle School, and before that, Lewis Palmer Elementary School. And over the last couple of months, I've seen announcements for a number of the teachers that he had who are retiring or leaving the district. And it is very poignant to hear about that. Some of them are going off to well-deserved retirements, and we're gonna miss them and we celebrate them. But some of them are leaving because they don't feel supported here in the district, and that is the most heartbreaking of all. To hear teachers who've been here for 10 and 20 years saying, I can't finish out my career here, I have to go somewhere else. And I want to recognize all the teachers that my son encountered and thank them for what they've done for him and for all the students. But I really want to ask the board, the superintendent, the administrators, the audience, the public, to please support our teachers going forward in the ways that they need to have good working conditions. We can't afford to lose some of these teachers. They've been here for so long, and they are the best of the best. They have made our school district what it is. We're very proud of this school district, and we need to maintain it. And we need to do that, we're gonna need to support our teachers. Thank you.
Next, it looks like a group, Nicole Murphy and Jenny Sampson. And who did I not,
Molly Ketchel.
oh, that's right.
It's
We'll
my
add
fault,
you
I
to
didn't
the
put her
list.
down.
Okay. Thank you for listening to us tonight, and I want to thank you for your service to our district and its students. As our district's policymakers, you make important decisions that impact our students and our staff on a day-to-day basis. And we are standing here today to talk to you about one of those policies. So we were all members of the Meet and Confer team this year, and last year the Meet and Confer policy was changed, and so we're here to provide some feedback about that change. So continually looking for the continual improvement so it can be more effective going forward. So there were several advantages to the change. It was nice to have a wider variety of educator voice at the table. This helped find observable and reoccurring issues that are happening throughout the district for a wide variety of educators. To also help us find those reoccurring patterns, we used data from the Teaching and Learning Conditions of Colorado survey, the TLCC survey, to structure our agenda items. And I also think the Meet and Confer process in general was a little more open and transparent. Educators knew what was happening and how to get involved and have their input heard. So those were all some good things that we were proud to take part of. On the flip side of that, looking toward continual improvement, it was hard to find educators to participate in the process, and so we're really hoping that you consider the things that we're bringing forward to you today so that educators see the importance of the process and are motivated to be involved because they can directly see how participating in this process can direct their working and teaching environment. So please, please consider these recommendations to help encourage that participation. We also found, and I have to own this in a big way personally, that using the TLCC data made it prohibitive for educators who had in the moment needs that they wanted to bring up. There wasn't really a space or a way to do that. So that left some things that needed to be said that didn't have an avenue to come up. So we want to open the door for that. And then we also feel that the superintendent's presence is essential to the process, and it is hoped in the future that Dr. Summers will be able to attend meetings on a consistent basis with us. On the dates that Karen couldn't be there, you were really missed. We all missed having you there. And Bob Foster attended consistently but as the sole representative of administration, and having at least one additional administrative member there will help ensure that Meet and Confer requests are being truly considered at the administrative level. For example, the district calendar was brought forward to the board for a vote without any input from the Meet and Confer team. And this was really frustrating for us because the two issues we spent time talking about were professional development and teacher work time, and both of those things were directly impacted by the calendar. Going forward, requests we have would the attendance of Dr. Summers and possibly a school board member, if you'd be interested in coming to Meet and Confer meetings. We'd like
Ms.
input.
Simpson, I'm sorry, that's your time.
Okay. So, thank you.
You can always send an email to the board.
Okay. We'll send that follow-up.
Please. Ms. Sampson, if you wanted to also send us that document that you would prepared, we'd love to have the input.
Okay. We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comments. Now, board member comments. Mr. Poff, we'll start with you.
Well, we're coming to the end of another school year. This Friday is graduation, and and I've said this, it'll be for my 12th time I will have said this. Well, actually, I didn't say it the first time. Graduation is worth it all being on a school board. Being able to hand out those diplomas to all those kids every year, it's the most fun that a school board member gets, because it's a direct reflection of all that hard work from our teachers, from our staff, and everybody. It all goes down to that point. Last year I got to see my youngest graduate, and I got to hand him his diploma. That was quite the thrill. Both of my kids are doing very well, thankful to the K through 12 education that this district has given my kids. My oldest was on robotics, so I'm very familiar with the robotics team. My wife and my son were both there at the competition up in Denver. And if they could have worked out a way, they would have loved to have gone to Houston. I mean, they love that. And it inspired my son And so I'm very thankful of all the STEM stuff, and the robotics is fantastic. You know, I just can't say enough. This is going to be my last opportunity to talk about the year end of the school and how much our teachers, and I love sitting down and talking with teachers and getting their side and their opinions and views. I think it's the most important thing because our teachers are what make it happen. So thanks for another great year, and I look forward to graduation, to hugging all the teachers and having fun and handing out diplomas.
Thank you, Mr. Poff. Mr. Taylor?
Well, Mark, I'm sure we might get a chance to say this again, but I want to thank you for your service over the years as well. I just wanted to make note that this month, in fact, the El Paso County Planning Commission voted 3-2 to approve the new Monument Academy High School. And according to a newspaper release, they'll start construction on June 15th, or by June 15th, with classes to start in August of 2020. So the new school is designed for 500 high school students and 350 middle school students, which, as I understand, will be transferred from their current facility to the new facility, which actually then opens up 300 or so seats for elementary students, as I understand it. I think that's awesome. Before I joined the board had approved the Monument Academy High School in November of 2017. So the board has long supported the Monument Academy expansion. In, I think it was in March timeframe, you know, if my dates are a little off, I'm sorry. But in March of 2018, our board renegotiated the Monument Academy charter, extended it at the time, so it was a full 10-year charter, and I think resolved any open issues between the two institutions as far as governance goes. And then later that year, I want to say September timeframe, the board approved a resolution to sell the 69.7 acres that are located at the southeast corner of Highway 83 and 105 to a local developer who then stipulated that he would donate enough of that property to MA for this high school project. And so, you know, it's gratifying to me that the charter school in our school district is thriving and expanding. And I appreciate that it's been supported before I was on the board, and it's still been supported during my tenure. And I just wish to congratulate the Monument Academy on their progress and success on building their new Monument Academy High School, but it's really a middle school, high school, I guess now. But I think it's phenomenal that I've witnessed firsthand a lot of discussions and cooperation between the two institutions. And it's fortunate, I think, that our community, when we sit down together and talk about the issues openly and put it on the table, we can come up with good solutions that meet all requirements. I would add, though, just as an aside, this new Monument Academy High School, as it opens next fall, and I hope it does, and everything is great, and they move these 350 students from their current facility, it does open up elementary school seats, which is awesome. Unfortunately, it doesn't really directly resolve the overcrowding at our middle schools. So I don't want anyone to be confused that this expansion project that they're doing resolves the overcrowding at our middle school, because it doesn't. I just wanted to be, one, congratulatory, and two, cautious that we don't mistake the difference between the two issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Ms. Phillips?
Yeah. So as we come to the close of the academic year, I feel like it's been a real privilege for me to serve on this board with each of you and to see firsthand the leadership and the direction that this district is taking in terms of best serving students and the connections apparent within the community and the teachers and the staff. For those in our community who have concerns about the district, about specific schools or programming or support for certain departments, please get involved. There's so much that can be accomplished when we tap into our community and work together to align our common values and goals. As a parent over the years, I've seen the sign-up genius list for teacher luncheons and transportation breakfasts, rad nights, offers to help at PTO events and dances, textbook check-in, and many more. And those still come across my email as I have kids in the district. What I may not have realized was the extent to which so many do support our students in such a wide variety of ways. Teachers are spending significant time outside of their class time prepping and grading. Counselors spend time balancing, from what I can tell, about 9 different hats while striving to get to know each and every one of their kids in the hallways. And it's because that matters to them, and they know that it makes a difference in a child's life. Front office staff know my children by their first names, and they can identify when it's a tough day for a student, and they also have joined in on celebrating with our seniors this past week. A bus driver went far and beyond her duty to help a child who could have been at risk this spring. As a parent and member of this board, these are the acts of being a part of this community that create positive impact, that communicate to all of us that our children are of the utmost importance to each and every one of us. What teachers and staff do every single day matters. I had the honor to be present at the retirement dinner earlier this month, and to hear the heart and energy and time that our outgoing staff has invested was amazing. What teachers do every single day matters. Whether attending 3 middle school tours, high school assemblies, elementary school talent shows, which are very fun, or the Writers' Conference at Palmer Lake Elementary School, the enthusiasm and thoughtfulness with which our school staff and teachers are reaching students is so uplifting and so effective. We are one of the highest performing districts in the state of Colorado, and it is because of many factors, but largely the caliber of our staff in each of our schools. As we approach this summer and the fall with bond information at the forefront, we know that the new elementary school adds the needed space for our students and also provides for the quality of their work environment and programming for our teachers to be most effective. Another conversation that I feel is so important for all of us to keep current is the compensation of our staff and teachers, such that we are remaining, or can be, competitive with neighboring districts. As uplifting as it is to be present in the schools, especially during such an exciting time of the year, I also carry with me a letter tonight from a teacher, and I wanted to just read a few of her statements. There is a great, and I'm quoting, "There is a great pride in stating that I'm a teacher in Lewis Palmer School District. Currently, with my years of service and level of education, my net paycheck each month is $3,200 for my family of 4. I am a full-time, single-income mother of 3 children. In order to go into less debt each month, I donate plasma twice a week. And I sell random things online to be able to afford a pizza for my children once a month. In short, our district is bleeding talented, passionate individuals. Our students cannot afford to continue to lose excellent educators. There is reason to be concerned with the district's ability to hire and retain excellent educators. Nationally, education is in a precarious situation, but it seems even more tumultuous within this particular district. For the ones that I have the privilege to know and work alongside," and she's talking about her fellow colleagues, "I can tell you this: we are a group of devoted, tenacious, innovative, and nurturing educators. We work tirelessly to captivate and challenge all learners, to encourage and assist students towards success. We work long hours outside of the bell schedule, and we are proud of what we do. We do it well, and we do it modestly." I just wanted to carry her words to all of you because I believe this email only came to me. But as a board, I would like us to keep the conversation of competitive compensation current month by month so that we are consistently looking ahead and thinking through options and solutions.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Ms. Upchurch?
Thank you. Thank you. I want to start off by saying congratulations to our class of 2019 and congratulations to all of our students on their hard work and their pursuits and endeavors in their future, and also congratulations to the parents that are behind them and the teachers and the educators that have been behind them from K to 12 that are behind the scenes all the time supporting our students. So congratulations to them. I, too, am a former robotics mom, parent, and we've been on the field many times. And I went to the robotics awards banquet, and hearing that those students spend so much time, 3,600 hours, building those robots. And I remember the day back when they were at Palmer Ridge and they had such a small space. And Grace Best is definitely a home for them right now, and I'm glad that they have the space they have, and I am so glad that we have such a supportive community, from our sponsors to our parents that put in time, effort, money, and these kids are amazing. The things they do, it's a reminder of all the amazing things our kids do in our district, and you said it perfectly, that it's a sport of the mind, so congratulations to all of your students this year. It's been a great program to watch grow. And congratulations to Mr. Wise on the chess tournament. I believe, is he still here? Doesn't he do a chess program in the summer also?
He does, but he is retiring.
So he'll have big shoes to fill. I also wanted to say thank you to all of our parents that come and advocate and ask that our board and our community that we're working in collaboration together for things such as making sure that are we putting our kids first when it comes to start times. And I also wanted to say that I hope that we ensure that our educators are appreciated all year, not just during Teacher Appreciation Month and Appreciation Week, and that we really do make it a priority, that we are continuing to have that conversation, that they are compensated competitively, and that we are ensuring that they're one of our top priorities. We have a lot of new leaders that will be ushering in 2019 and 2020, and sometimes that can be a little uneasy and a little unnerving. But with trust and focus on our great educators and the great education that we have in our school district, I think that we continue to do great things. So another year done and almost, and not quite yet, but a lot of busy things going on this week. But this has been a privilege and an honor. And thank you, Karen. And thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Ms. Upchurch. I think we'll have plenty of opportunities to thank both Cheryl and Karen for everything they've done for the district. And Casey, once again, it's good to have you on board, my friend, and we're looking forward to your leadership. I had the privilege of attending several activities within the district, and I have to say probably one of the highlights were the retirement dinner. Just interacting with individuals that have contributed so much to this district. Then I also had the privilege of observing a 5th grade elementary class walk through the Pioneer Museum, which just happens to be directly across from my office. I saw a bus at a few minutes, so walked over and just kind of tagged along. But it's great that our district provides opportunities for our kids to experience these different things. One group was making Indian beads, another group was pounding on a drum, doing some Indian songs, and it was just a wonderful experience, and no doubt they'll remember that for the rest of their lives. Much like Ms. Phillips, I too am concerned about the loss of our great teachers here in District 38. Competitive compensation is a topic that is often discussed. It's a topic that's often on my mind. We have great kids, we have great families, and we also have great teachers, and we need to do a better job in taking care of our teachers. And so that is a common goal amongst everyone on this board. I also want to thank everyone that spoke tonight. A lot of great comments. Sorry that we're just limited to 3 minutes, but that's policy. don't like cutting people off, but a lot of wonderful input. And I also want to thank everyone that has sent me emails. I enjoy receiving emails because at times there are issues that may not be on a radar screen, but perhaps should. So please keep the emails up, and I think with every board member, in addition to email, we're more than happy to talk, meet with you on a one-on-one basis. So we're here to listen to you, and as a common goal to make District 38 a better place. And that concludes my remarks, so Ms. Bruft.
Well, it is an exciting time of year with graduation and continuations, and I attended the National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony last week, and it's great to see our kids aspiring to that, and just all the end of the year events remind us of why we do what we do, is we see kids entering transition periods where they've demonstrated success and moving on to the next step. So I also wanted to tell you about $5,500 we got for each school from Kiwanis to support Sources of Strength, each of our high schools. And that was done through the I don't remember, the cutest dog, what it was?
Yes, they decided to have a cutest dog contest, and Terry Hayes' dog, Betty Lou, you may well know that dog, won the award. What's really special, though, about this is the community coming together to donate funds across the district, O'Malley's, and I could go on and on about all the local companies who donated. And one other really special story that really proves the value of Sources of Strength. The reason that Betty Lou, the dog, won was really Terry's neighbor. Terry's neighbor was affected in her family by suicide. She is so supportive of Sources of Strength that she stayed up until midnight the night before, donated approximately $1,000, and put Betty Lou, the dog, over the line. So it's a huge, huge honor for both of our high schools in the Sources of Strength program.
So Kiwanis also have supported $7,000 to 6 seniors at both high schools for scholarships. So as always, we appreciate the support we get from the Kiwanis. I am very pleased to hear the advocacy for compensation for our staff. It continues to be a challenge. You'll hear a little bit more about the things that we had to do in order to be able to afford those raises. It was cutting more deferred maintenance and things like that. And I appreciate the board talks about this, but until you find a new revenue source, it's going to be difficult for you to do that. So I would encourage, as I'm leaving and you're thinking about that, it's going to be more and more challenging for you to meet that goal you talk about of improving compensation without raising some revenue away, because that. So I guess that's just my plug, because I've heard the advocacy, but with that advocacy comes some decision making that has to happen as well. So wanted to tell you about the Youth Mental Health Coalition that we talked about earlier with Bridget O'Connor. And it's a coalition of professionals, agencies, and community members who meet to improve the communication and coordination of services around teen mental health support. They've had 2 meetings with representation from schools, district, some organizations, agencies, churches, Kiwanis, the Second Wind Fund, and many other that are very interested in the well-being of our students. The goal of the coalition is to provide opportunities to work together on resources and projects to ensure that we have more support for our students. We have Summer Learning Academy coming up, and every year that's an opportunity for us to work with our staff, and it's voluntary for staff to participate, but we have shows the dedication of especially of our teaching staff that want to come back and learn more and enhance the learning to pass on to their kids the next year. So we have approximately 125 of our certified teachers signed up already to attend the Summer Learning Academy. It will be held on May 30th and 31st all day. It's a joint endeavor with many of the teachers teaching the classes, co-teaching. We have a lot of expertise in our district. So many of them are leading their own sessions or co-teaching with another teacher, and it's a great way for us to use the strength and expertise in our own district to pass on to other staff members, and most people really enjoy that collaborative effort with an experienced staff member for providing that training. We also are including assessment literacy, curriculum training, more Google Classroom information, as well as some opportunities to learn more about our learning management system that allows us to do some online courses as well. We did send out a community mailing, as you saw, that went out. I just want to remind everyone that that's a factual summary, and that is allowable in fair campaign practices. You actually haven't made any formal decision. You're considering and planning and thinking, but until you call that question, that's when fair campaign practices kick in. And so that factual summary is completely allowable at this point, because I know a couple people have asked that question. You can find it on the website, but usually, I think most people got it at their home as well. Turning the rest over to Cheryl.
Well, before we get to Cheryl, Dr. Summers, do you have anything for us?
Sure, just a few quick comments. First of all, grateful for the opportunity to transition in such a thoughtful manner, and grateful for Karen and her team in welcoming me, as well as several of the administrators in the district have had the chance to visit with more and more people, make some school visits, connect with some different groups, our DAC group, our Business Advisory Council group. Looking forward to meeting with so many more, and just humbled and inspired to be part of such a great community with such great accomplishments, amazing students with just so much that we have in front of us, and just humbled and honored to be in this position here with all of you. So looking forward to closing out the year on a real successful note and starting officially July 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Summers. Ms. Bongaman?
Just one thing. This last week, our grant writers, Kathy Wilcox and Heather Buckman, Danny Sandoval and I, Danny Sandoval's our head of maintenance, went before the BEST board to request the two BEST grants that we wrote for: a new roof at Prairie Winds for approximately $1.1 million and a new boiler at KES at Kilmer for approximately $437,000. We were successful on both grants. I'm happy to report we're on the short list at this point within the first $20 million, and I know why Tiffany's shaking her head yes. That means it's very likely that the state board will go ahead and approve funding for us. So that's fantastic news for us. And special thanks to both Heather and Kathy, who spent hundreds of hours writing that grant, and for Danny Sandoval for his research and then his presentation skills in front of the board. So
when is the final date? When do we hear?
We will hear sometime in June that we're finalized and ready to go. The problem with that is it's hard to get started, of course, in such a short turnaround during the summer, but we're poised to go ahead and get the worst parts of the Prairie Winds roof started and done this summer.
You know, in the event that we are successful, would we anticipate the grant would cover the entire cost of the roof?
No, great question. Our match on that is 45%, so 45 cents out of each dollar. And we wrote the Prairie Winds grant into this next year's budget, the 1920 budget, in anticipation of this. And then we will phase the Kilmer project in following that. Grant's completion is the plan right now, assuming the board approves that.
And as Ms. Upchurch has said repeatedly, BEST grants are just for occupied buildings that are for roofs and boilers, correct?
That is correct. Now, from time to time, the legislature does try to make some changes. For example, they're beginning to work in security improvements for schools, and we are monitoring that very closely. However, what it really comes down to, and Casey and I were talking about this today, is continually looking at where they award the points. It's just because they say they'll fund some project, if on their points rubric it is way down after the money runs out, we can write for it all we want, but we will not be successful. So we have to monitor their processes as well as we move forward.
And we do have to match it.
Yes, we do.
Thank you, Ms. Bongaman. All right, Mr. Poff and Mr. Taylor, I think you're up next on the agenda.
Can I ask Cheryl one question on that? Is the BEST money, is that marijuana money?
A portion of it is, depending on the year, but it depends on the funding in the legislature for that given year. So I can't give you an exact answer as to what percentage this year, but from time to time they do put some marijuana money into that.
Thanks.
where we're gonna start, Chris is gonna do most of the talking this time. I know you find that hard to believe. But I think Chris is actually gonna use the laptop there, if that's doable, to go through where, each section on the website. And then we can talk about specific things when it comes to the bond to address the middle school overcrowding.
Kathy, is that queued up for Mr. Taylor?
What should we have open, Mark?
Is this okay?
Sure.
Mark, what should we have open?
You know on the website, on the main page of the website where it just says the 2019 bond?
Oh, go,
On the website. He's gonna kind of walk through that a little bit.
okay.
This is a great view. I've never had this view before.
Maybe I should swear you in, Chris.
Just let him
Did it work?
That's right.
I thought I did. Should I try Firefox?
Oh, just right there, okay.
It's moving. But nothing's coming up. Is it the screen lock? Oh, there it is. Oh. So let me just do a quick review of all of your work, because a lot of you have contributed significantly to what I'm going to go through. There's a section on the homepage called 2019 Bond Info. And if you click that page, then you get lots of information.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, for our audience that's at home, you're at the lewispalmer.org website, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Indeed. So this is the landing page of the 2019 bond info. If you scroll down, there's an introduction and so forth, but then there's specific topic areas. So if you wanted to just see the potential elementary school design, you click on that design and up will come here's the site plan, and then here's some renderings of both the outside and some of the inside. So you can see what we spent money for last year in designing a new elementary school whose designs we can reuse more than once. If you go down and you look at the estimated construction costs, you will find a little bit of an intro section here. And then you can click on estimated costs for the potential new elementary school, and you have the costs that we've received from CRP Architects and GH Phipps Construction for both the building of the new elementary school as well as the remodeling or repurposing of Bear Creek Elementary back to Creekside or middle school. And then back on the home page or the landing page, you'll see other areas here that I want to highlight. So you'll see, here's a section over here on the right that says what Lewis Palmer Middle Schools are saying about their current situation. Here's a section on the Grace Best Facts, the history. And it was a high school, it's been everything. I think it's done everything possible over time. Here's the mailer that went out. It's quite cool, if you like things that are cool. I kind of thought this was pretty nifty. You actually can go in here and it'll open it up, and then you can flip the page by doing the right thing here. Then you can flip the page again. So there's the entire mailer that went out. You can see it online. So I thought that was pretty cool. Back to the landing page, you'll see facts and figures. So this is a summary of the bond structuring that we've presented and are proposing based on Hilltop Securities advisement. And you'll see basically at a high level here, the 2000 bond, which was for 2 schools. It was for Prairie Winds and for Creekside Middle School. It was a total of $22.9 million. So 20 years ago, we got 2 for 1. The total payback was $45 million. You'll notice that the interest principal split was about 50-50, or 51-49 if you want. 7 years later, there was another bond for Palmer Ridge High School. It was a $57.8 million bond. And you'll notice that the principal interest breakdown was 56% total payback is principal, 44% interest, for a total payback of $103.2 million. The proposed bond that we're discussing, yet to be approved for campaign purposes, is for $29 million. The breakdown of principal and interest is 64% principal and 36% interest, for a total payback of $45.2 million. You'll notice the bond term, 2000 bond was 26-year payback. The 2007 bond was 23 years. This bond that we're suggesting or proposing will be $15 million. The actual bond amount is $28.985 million, but it rounds to $29 million. It is cost neutral, and the reason it's cost neutral, I'll pull up some detail on that in a minute. I want to be cautious when we say cost neutral, because you know how the state funding formula works. We're all very familiar with that, right? And let's just say, 65% of it is from the state, and maybe 36% is from real estate taxes, or some other. It doesn't really matter. Part of it comes from the state, part of it comes from real estate taxes. Now, the real estate taxes actually that are collected for the general fund really is just the state money. And then they make up the difference for the PPR, per pupil funding. So there's a portion of our property tax that's going to increase because the assessed value in the district went up. The assessed value is then used at a given rate, a fixed rate for general obligation, right? So there's going to be a tax increase. I just want to be really clear. People are going to get their property tax bill next year, and there's going to be a property tax increase, but it has nothing to do with the bond portion of the taxes. Any questions about that? Okay. There will be more detail to follow, because I think we need to outline more clearly how the PPR and the property tax and then the bond actually fit together. The bond tax, the repayment of bonds, will go down. And it will continue to go down over time. The reason we can pass a bond to build a building and yet have our property taxes associated with the bond repayment go down is because we have more people in our district. It's growth. So the assessed value this year went up. Cheryl, if you have that in front of you, it's like almost 15%. I mean, it's an enormous number. And it goes up every other year, right? So this year, it went up. I'll just use 15%. It's close enough. That 15% increase is not just my property going up in value or your property going up in value. There's more properties. There's more homes. And all of that development that has been occurring for a number of years is now being reflected in the assessed value base on which property taxes are assessed. Does that make sense? Any questions? So it is the growth that requires us to build a school. It is also the growth that makes the pie for paying for those schools, the individual pieces go down. So as we grow, we have a higher population that's contributing to our property tax. Hence, the overall cost for an individual taxpayer doesn't increase when we build a new building because of that population growth. Now that's confusing to me, so I hope it's understandable to you all. Any questions, comments on that?
I would like to just bring up, if you scroll back down, I think everybody caught this, that when you look at the bond that we're proposing, I refer to it as the most conservative bond ever. And you can see that clearly going by our other past bonds, but someone may say, well, maybe you've always gotten bad bonds. I would encourage anyone to go look at any other school district's bonds or municipal bonds and compare, and you will see that the bond that we're going after, I mean, when you notice, when you look at this, the lowest interest, 15 years, I mean, it is an extremely conservative bond.
And I'm going to add to that just a bit. So the bond that has been structured with the guidance of Hilltop Securities has in 5 years a step down. What the step down means is that our total payment per year drops by $2 million. The reason it drops by $2 million is in the event that growth materializes, as some forecast that it might, we could build another school, again, without raising taxes. Now, it doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. It's just the way we modeled it. We made the assumption that in 5 years we may need to build another school. So we built in a pre-planned $2 million step down in the annual payments in order to accommodate that should the growth materialize.
And if it doesn't,
then the taxes go down.
then everybody's taxes goes down.
Right. So I think there's a real direct correlation. I want to be really clear here. There's a direct correlation between growth and the ability to pay for the schools without increasing taxes. So if the growth is real and it materializes, we should be able to build sufficient facilities in this school district to support that growth. Okay? So let's go back to this homepage. There's lots of good information in here. I hope you're appreciating it. I get giddy almost, you know, like, oh my goodness, this is fact filled. You can see here, you know, what about marijuana tax money? There's a whole section here. If you want to learn about marijuana taxes, click here. Here's the administration numbers, the overhead, if you will. You click here and you can see what's real. Here's last year's failed MLO bond information. Here's our enrollment data. We also have enrollment analysis, long-term planning. I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to look at enrollment analysis, Pikes Peak area schools. So this gives you a little intro. It's worth reading. I'm going to skip over it. I'm going to jump right to the data. What this shows is essentially all the school districts in the area. And the very bottom line here, I don't know if it's very visible. Let me see if I can zoom that up a bit. It doesn't look like it's growing to me, but oh well. Let me see if it's here. Is that better? Yeah, this bottom line here. So this column, Lewis Palmer School District 38, and the very bottom line here says net gain. What this is all the ins and outs amongst all the school districts. This is about choice. This is where people are actually making choices where their kids go to school. So for this particular year, which is 2017-2018, the net impact was we had 35 net gain for that year. The prior year, you can go back and you can see that we had a negative. So we had opt-outs, choosing to go elsewhere. So the numbers in total are what, 400, 500, 600 each way, something like that? But the net number, those who opt in, let's say it's 600, well, there was 609 that opted out this particular year. That's how that's what that net number represents. Does that make sense to everyone? So you scroll down and you can go see over time, if you just scroll all the way down, I think in 2000, what's the oldest one? 2009 and 10, the out was 213 net. So over time, over the last 10 years, we've slowly had fewer people opting out than opting in. So the net balance today is pretty close to a net zero. Okay, that's interesting to me. And there's a lot more information in there. I just shared one data point. So back to the future. Wow, that's too big now, sorry. I wanted to go to the enrollment numbers. And if there's any there you want, I guess you can scroll and look at them yourself, but I just want people in the entire school district to know what's available to them. If there's questions about any of these information things, I would encourage you to contact the school district and ask questions, because this is very important that everybody understands what this information means, the impacts that it has. If I look at the school district enrollment, you'll see here a chart, and then you can click here for enrollment map. Here's the enrollment for February. And so there's lots of information here. Let me find one that I kind of like. Well, here's one, Colorado Education Funding. This one's cool because you get a couple videos. So everything you want to learn about school finance 101. One is the school state funding formula, and two is local dollars for local schools. This is all very, very interesting, but we need to dig a little deeper, because what I'd like to do is really answer the question of why Lewis Palmer School District can only spend $8,500 per year per student, when the average in the state of Colorado is $10,000. And this doesn't answer that question. This only tells you that there's formulas involved that says this is how it works. But what I'd like to understand is, what are those real issues that cause us to be near the low end of funding for our per PPR? That has the direct impact on teacher pay. That's what Karen's talking about. We can't just automatically wave a wand and do what we all want to do when we have a formula that works against us. Our school district is at the bottom of the list for school districts in this state for PPR funding. The average is more than 15% higher than us. And who suffers? Again, just broad numbers. 80% of it goes to what of our budget? Teachers and staff. So it's a direct impact.
It's closely approaching 85 with the para changes, insurance changes,
Throw in
all those
benefits,
things.
correct.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is important, but I would like to see us dig a little deeper here and actually try and figure out, why are we near the bottom of all the school districts in this state, and we're 15% below the average? I don't know the answer because I haven't spent any time on it, but I think we need to figure that out. Because I would like to know, as a dad, as a property owner, why is this area, Lewis Palmer School District area, at the bottom of the heap? That doesn't make sense to me. One of the highest performing school districts, but we can't pay. And it isn't your fault or my fault, it's this PPR.
It's the factors. It's the factors that are in our school district that
We need to educate everybody.
The funding factors, yeah.
I understand. I even watched the video and I know what those factors are. I'd like to actually define it and then understand why we're different.
So if we go to the CD, I'll show it to you. If you go to the CDE website, there's a spreadsheet that shows us El Paso County, and it shows us side by side on what the multiples and the factors are for population, for our ascent students, for our at-risk students, and how it compares to each of the other school districts across the board. And you can see where our numbers are compared to other school districts. So if you look at District 20, for example, they have a lot more students that are on free and reduced lunches. But they're also near the bottom of their funding, but then they have MLO monies to help compensate that. So different school districts, you have District 49 is different as well.
Right, the MLO money, that's clearly articulated here. Perhaps the link you're talking about should be added to this page. I mean, if it's self-explanatory, that's great. I haven't looked at it. I'm just saying it's a void yet. And I think our community needs to see it, that's all.
One question I have, and this is probably a question for Mr. Poff, is this is an issue that was a little before the time I moved up to Monument, but with Palmer Ridge, a lot of the residents I've spoken with said that they were really upset in how the district handled the situation. And I don't know
The background?
Well, I don't know that I need that tonight, but I'm wondering if that's something that we might want to also address on our website and provide information that we've learned from our mistakes. You know, this is what happened.
Well, what I will tell you, to briefly, not going into specifics, is even, you know, the decision to build Palmer Ridge was before I went on the board.
Okay.
And I'm on my 12th year. That decision was about a year and a half before me. And people are still saying, well, Mr. Poff voted. No, I didn't. I wasn't. So people are confused about what actually happened, the history of what transpired. And I think a lot of the confusion is there was two items on the or the election. I believe it was in 2006 election, if I remember right. I came on the board in 2007. One was to build the building. The other was to get additional revenue through an MLO to help pay for staff for the building. So some people were confused that, well, I thought both had to pass before you would build the school. And that's not what it was. It basically was, this is to build the school. This is if you want to support the schools and give us additional revenues to help us to pay for the staff, that's what the MLO was for. And so they felt kind of bait and switched when the building was still built, which again was before my time on the board, and people are still talking about that today. And there's a lot of confusion around that. Are you talking about the history? I mean,
well, you know, that issue has come up enough that I feel that it's probably something we need to educate the community on.
On what really took place. I mean, because we could add it to this, to that web page, or to that page.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking, just another blip and explain, you know, the actual facts surrounding it.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Because it was a vote of the people. It was not the school board that decided to build the school. It was a vote that passed.
As it will be a vote of the people if
Exactly.
if the new elementary school is approved.
So I think the facts and the timeline would be important to include in there.
So I guess my question is, since you all have been volunteering to do this, who to put together and then Julie finalizes it,
Now,
who is
I know
the
where
person
everyone's
that's
gonna
going
look
to
at.
do it?
It was actually before my time. So I don't have, you know, I can't even remember exactly what the vote was. I know it was like 51 or 52 to 48.
I guess my question is, if you're expecting, if you would like us to do it, I need a little bit more information than the timeline and the facts behind it. What facts are relevant other than just what you identified?
Well, I think
Is it important for this year's bond is the first question I want to ask. How does that help?
Well, I think it helps because there's a bad taste, and I see a few heads shaking in the back. There's a bad taste that is in many community members, and we keep on asking for money without explaining what happened, how we learned from that lesson, and how we're moving on here.
And if they're talking about things that aren't truthful, you know, it's like the more times they say it, its history gets changed.
Well, you know, I can appreciate just setting the facts out as they occurred. I can appreciate that.
That's what I'm
I
talking
also don't think that we need to spend too much time relitigating it.
Well, I don't think we need to relitigate anything. I think there's a lot of misconceptions within the community, and we need to just have a timeline and supporting information. And Mr. Poff, my guess is you might know a former board
Yes.
member or two that you might be
Yes.
able to assist you with that project?
Yeah, all I need is a point contact in the administration, and I'm sure I can get the right people to that person.
Can I add to that, that I think there's an education piece in terms of understanding bond monies versus MLO monies. And in terms of looking forward and perhaps, future MLO funds, I think putting that piece of information here.
It's
bond
in those
versus
two
MLOs.
videos.
Did I miss it?
It's there. You just
Okay.
watch those videos and it explains
Well,
it very well.
I know the difference. I'm just saying
No,
for
that's
people
what
to
I'm
go
saying.
to
It's
as a
there
resource.
for anybody.
Right, and there are people to this day that they'll reference an MLO, well, you're gonna pass an MLO to build a building, and it's like, well, no, so. But I'm thinking of just a very brief overview, high-level timeline. I guess probably one of the dilemmas or one of the concerns, how do we integrate that into that page as to be something that has anything to do with the bond of 2019?
No, we just have a separate icon, what we learned from Palmer Ridge construction.
See, I don't like the term "what we learned."
So here's an idea, Mark, is on the page where we show the bonds that exist, the first one is
Prairie
Creekside
Winds
and
and
Prairie
Creekside.
Winds. Maybe we do a little fact history there. Second one was the Palmer Ridge, do the same kind of fact history and leave it there. Because the rest of this is all about the proposed one.
Right, I think that's a good idea, to just kind of give a history of that.
Of both of them, though. If we're gonna do one, let's do them.
Okay.
So this Colorado funding page here, if I might ask our webmaster, we really should put the Colorado state funding on the top because it's sort of the overview. And then it even references the one that's currently on the top. It might be the second one listed. But the local dollars for local schools, it's a 4-minute video. It explains exactly what you brought up. And I want everybody in the community to see these videos. They're good. They're straightforward. There was one more page I wanted to touch on for you all.
So your advocate, I just want to make sure I'm getting this down so we can follow up. You want to move the Colorado School Finance information.
Well, there's 2 videos. You
Right,
just need to switch them.
You want to just move that whole Colorado education funding to the top of the list.
Yeah, because it's the intro. It's sort of the bigger picture. The next one is a dive into MLOs and the differences here.
Okay.
That's the way I read them when I watched those videos. So there's one more page I want to touch on. It's called capacity information. So in here, there is this Lewis Palmer School District enrollment capacity information. And Jim Taylor, I've mentioned this before, and Bob and others have spent a lot of time to get the history and the October count so it reconciles to the CDE site, but it also breaks out, our homeschool enrichment academy, et cetera. And so you'll see here, if you click on the October count history, the top one is the 28, 29 October count. And then the next one, if you just keep scrolling down, you can see 2017, 2018. It's by facility, it's by grade, it's very detailed, and it ties out 100% to the CDE's site. It also happens to drive revenue, which kind of makes it important numbers. So whenever anyone asks me about enrollment and or capacity, this is where I look, okay? And I would encourage everyone in our community to see this and to understand it. So again, to get there, it's the enrollment information. On the left side, you go to the very bottom and you click here, because some of these others are like how to enroll and other frequently asked questions about enrollment. But this is the historical count. And it goes back, gosh, I'll scroll down and see. It goes back to 2007. So there's a pretty good history here of enrollment information.
And just a note, enrollment analysis, Pikes Peak area schools is listed here twice. So we might want to just make a note of that
For the webmaster.
for the webmaster.
Awesome. All right, now, homework. I know everybody's contributed here. I know that. And I would think that at this point in time, we really, as a board, agreed to be all in. We're gonna lead this. We are leading it as a board. I have one voice. I'm only one voice. Each of you have a voice. We agreed that we were going to get 100% behind this. I think the best thing we can do right now is to go to this site and do a pretty good scrub. And if you see anything in here that you think should be modified, adjusted, etc., we need to go to Karen and team with those recommendations, so that we have a place that we as a board have agreed, this is all the information we can think of. We believe it's accurate, it's reconciled, it's right. We've got who we got the information from. I mean, it's cited information. So each of you have a perspective. We all have our own unique perspective. I will go through every page, every landing page I can land on, and I will provide feedback to Karen, but each of us should do the same thing. Because I'm going to use your talking points that you put out here. I didn't do all this. Not any one of us did. Mark and I, attended a lot of meetings with Karen to kick this off, but there's a lot of work that's gone in here, and I appreciate everybody's help. I just think, time to cap it off, let's do a pretty thorough review of it so that we can provide final feedback and, have it so it's a good tool that we can always reference people to. It's very educational. Any questions? Comments?
And we should email you if, okay.
Mark?
The only thing I'd say is, do you want to talk about the updated numbers for the bond, or it's out there on board docs?
Yeah.
If anybody has questions.
I don't have board docs here, so I could pull it up, but I can talk to it. Do you guys want to just pull that open? It's on the public site of board docs.
Is it the bond financing PDF? Is that what it is?
I'm already in it. So
I have
It's the
bond
detail. Yeah, you're talking about
financing.
the detail one
Yeah.
from Hilltop. I didn't, yeah, that one right there. So, can you see that now?
Oh, no, that's not it.
And again, this is just,
No,
this isn't final.
This is an estimate. Everything's an estimate. In fact,
Oh.
it'll still be an estimate if the bond passes.
There.
It'll be an estimate until the bonds are actually issued.
Right, until we
which-
actually do it. And the key point is one of the feedbacks we heard from the community was there was no layout that we could show the community that this was our intentions when we obtain a bond. And so this is very clear, very transparent, right out in the open. Here's what we're talking about. So everyone
So I'm going to start with the far left column, and I'll just give you a quick overview, and then you can ask any questions for understanding. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So the far left is assessed value. So the 513,571 million was last year's final assessed value. This year's preliminary assessed value. It's subject to, people submitting objections, whatever. It's 592. It's an increase of 15.273%. And then every other year thereafter, we built in a 2% growth rate. That's as conservative as we felt we could be. So the assessed value that you see, the 592, is pretty close to what we will have to approve in December when we do the mill levy rates. It may not be exact, it probably is not exact, but it's in that range, okay? Then every other year thereafter, it grows 2%. You'll notice the current debt service. In 2024, we pay off the 2,000. So Creekside and Prairie Winds pays off. That's why you see in the current debt service a reduction of 6.69 to 4.7. The remainder there is all Palmer Ridge High School, which pays off in 2029. Are you with me? We're good? Then the new bond, the principal early on is limited because we've got existing debt that we're paying. So once that existing debt is paid, we throw principal all up front, and it's a 15-year bond. And so if you look at projected aggregate debt service, you see that sort of to the right of the 2019 bond? You'll see that we're paying about $8.5 million for 5 years, 6 years. Then it drops to $2 million. That's what I referenced earlier about the step down. This is a step down of $2 million that, should the growth materialize that's being forecast, we could add another school in 5 or 6 years to our community to make a decision about another elementary school in a place and so forth to be determined. Does that make sense so far? Any questions to that point? You'll notice then the total levy. This total levy is for bond service only. I want to be really clear. This is for bond service. This isn't about the general obligation that goes to the state for the PPR, right? This is for the bond itself. You'll notice that it drops significantly over time. Well, that's growth driven. And then the rest of that is somewhat interesting. Over on the right-hand section, you'll see the total school district mills. That includes the general obligation money. And the best we can figure is that this bond will not add, the bond itself, the debt service for the bond to build this building will not add to an individual's property tax because of growth, as we talked about earlier. That's the schedule that supported that summary page that we talked about. Any questions at all? Okay. Anything else?
You might want to just quickly, the far right column, if this played out exactly the way it is and not adding a second school, we have the step down. If you look all the way to the right, you notice those are all negative numbers in parentheses. That's how much the taxes will go down over the years if nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
And I think it's critical to understand, because I know there's not everybody understands how bonds work, and I still trying to figure everything out. If you take a bond structure, which is what corporations and government entities use to manage debt, and you try to compare that to a home loan, it's apples and oranges. And I know there's some that are trying to say, well, why don't you just go get a traditional house loan? People don't borrow $30 million to build a house. That just doesn't happen. If they're going to build a $30 million house, they're probably going to pay cash. You just don't get those type of loans. This is debt management. And what we're trying to do, as opposed to what like I would do if I wanted to go get a home loan again, I'd be, well, how much can I afford each month? And then that would be my monthly payment for the house. What we're also doing here is we're structuring the tax burden for our taxpayers. It's such that we want to have the minimal impact to our community. And that's why we've structured it this way, to basically have no impact, is what our goal was. Is that we want to pull this off using a debt management, using a bond, 15-year bond, very conservative, that will not impact our community's taxes. And that's what we have.
Okay, can I interrupt for a second? Just received a note that the roads are getting really bad outside. So maybe we could keep things moving. Yes, my concern is I want to make sure we get our staff home and we don't want any accidents on the roads.
Much appreciated.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me conclude with one thought then. Okay. The bond last year that failed was a 10-year interest only, and then 20 years of principal with a total payback of $66 million. That was following the example of the prior two bonds. It wasn't like that was an exception. That was just how all of them had been. Prior bonds, 2000 and 2007, were both what they call wraps. They both had interest only at the front end. Now we've changed that, and the only reason we can change this the way we are doing it is because of the real growth that is occurring in our area.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. If there aren't any other questions, we can move on to the next agenda item. Okay. Ms. Wongman, I believe this is you.
Yes, I think the next two are mine, and they're focused on the nuts and bolts. You all have been working months and months on the budget. So you have in front of you your budgetary book, and I think given the weather and what Mr. Clausen said, I'm going to just focus on the new, perhaps pressing items. So I'm going to start out with insurance. You all may recall.
And real quick, for the benefit of the board members, if we feel like we're going too fast, we could actually add anything to the work session meeting in June. I don't want anyone to feel like we're trying to truncate to get it done tonight.
Well, the only thing I would say by use, we wouldn't be saying the same thing. Why don't we just push everything that we don't have to vote on tonight, just push it to the work session?
Okay.
And I only have one question, because I haven't had a chance to look at it. Are we following the CDE layout for reporting?
Yes, and you'll see that we've actually converted both Monument Academy's budget and our budget to the new layout. And so at this next board meeting, you'll actually see that, and then we can start the comparables of here's our budget in the new layout and here's our actual. So yes.
And did the
Bright Bites?
yeah, Bright Bites.
Yeah.
Did we get with them, or is it
We did get with them. They told us that we were too small to work with them. We've nudged them a couple more times, but we haven't gotten movement from them yet. So we are currently doing a download from our Olio and then doing Excel spreadsheets, which I would love to get away from, but at this point we haven't been able to do that.
We're too small.
We are too small. Yes. Yes. So yes. So to vote on. So if I can go to that, because in your consent agenda tonight, there is a request for approval of the Colorado School District Self-Insurance Pool risk management or insurance, if you will, for the 2019-2020 school year. And you may recall that we talked about how we're in the wind and ice storm belt now, so we have a huge increase in premiums, so we had sought to bid that out to other carriers. In fact, no other carrier could give us a fixed deductible. All the other carriers wanted percentage of building risk. So Bob and I struggled, but we went through a number of options, and I wanted to bring your attention to what we're proposing tonight, because it is in your consent agenda. Number one, we're looking at doing a increased deduction across the board, mostly in that $25,000 range. Number two, we're also looking at increasing our limits. For example, for the automobile liability coverage, we're looking at going from $2 million up to $3 million, but take our deductible up into that 25% range. We are also looking at increasing our deductible on increased automobile physical damage from $500 to $5,000. And then last but not least, for each occurrence district-wide, moving our deductible from $5,000 to $25,000. This will actually decrease our premiums versus their proposal. Not a huge amount. It's $67,000 on the per occurrence deductible, and then about $14,000 on the automobile side. We didn't get this proposal until very, very late in the game. So frankly, I just left the fund balance in the insurance reserve fund for this year. That doesn't hurt you in terms of flexibility, because the insurance reserve fund's a subset of the general fund. So you can still move those reserves around as needed. But that's what both Bob and I think is best to do, to look at increasing the deductible, increasing our liability limits, and then monitor how many storms we have, monitor how many accidents we have, and look at reserves. Dr. Kate Summers and I talked about that just today, making sure that we keep those reserves in balance and monitoring how many claims we actually have. So you do have that in your consent agenda, and that's really the only thing that you need to, that we're requesting a vote on tonight.
Actually, Karen, do we have to vote on offering a contract to Miss O'Connor?
You already did. We did the special meeting at our work session, and
Okay, that's right, because I got confused because you announced her.
We just didn't introduce her at the work session.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we table everything until the work session, other than voting on the consent agenda.
Well, Mr. Foster, with the policies that we have, is there anything
It's a first reading.
pressing for time?
Subcontract. We can still do that.
Okay.
We could still do the executive session if we need to tonight.
I just have one
But what I'm saying is, so I'm making a motion to move everything.
Yeah, I get that, and I'm just making sure that it's fine with everything that.
Okay.
We actually do, We just have to do a quick presentation on this, and Cheryl needs to note that this is the preliminary budget for people to view. So we don't need to go through all the slides, but she just needs to hit the overview and then talk about the fact that we've presented this and the public is free to review it as well.
Okay.
We just need to make sure we do that before we move on.
Okay, so you have in your packets a link to the Lewis Palmer School District proposed budget. In May, as required by state statute, you have before you the slides detailing the budget and the book itself. I would encourage you to read the letter of introduction, gives an overview of the district and the budget and where we're at, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
And we should probably also hit the highlight of the next item, or the highlight that talks about para and
Sure.
the increase in compensation.
Sure. So we do have an increase of 0.25% for para. We're estimating that's going to cost us approximately $78,600. Another important point is kindergarten is now fully funded from 0.58 to 1.0 FTE, which we've been talking about. There is an increase for special education Tier B students, which are the more severely impacted students. Our district is estimated to receive $100,000 in additional funding for that. You do have in your budget the addition of the module rental cost, of course, which we discussed in December. Our enrollment, we're looking at a growth of 175 FTE, but let me clarify, 83 additional students, and the rest of that is the addition of full-day kinder into the funding stream. Monument Academy, we found late in the game that we were going to be fully funded for all-day kinder. I went back to Monument Academy and asked if they wanted to revise their budget. They will, but they will not do that until October. So in their budget, they've only got kindergartners at half or 0.58 FTE. The budget does contain a 3% average wage increase for staff paid from the teacher salary schedule, 2.5% plus increases for the classified staff, depending on area. We had a wide range of market-induced increases for the different groups. The wage increase for administrators is at the low point 2.7, at the high point 2.99. So know that. We have a cost increase, of course, that we talked about for health, dental, and life of about a 5.5% increase. And I think most importantly, we have reserved the fixed costs necessary for the opening of the new middle school, and I'll inform my successor to make sure on July 1 that he goes ahead and moves that to reserved fund balance in the general fund, as you all have dictated. Karen, is there anything else that you really wanted us to focus on?
What else do we need to do with compensation for tonight? Because I know Bob is anxious to get a communication out tomorrow.
It's in the consent agenda.
They're in the consent
so
agenda.
they're in the consent, okay.
Good? Okay, be happy to answer any questions.
Can I just ask one clarifying question?
Uh-huh.
There's a 3% average wage increase. The 0.25 para is not part of that.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is a wage versus benefit, if you will. Correct.
Anything else?
Would it be, can I just, before our work session, can I just email you my
Sure.
questions?
Be happy to. Yes. Okay. We also did put in your packet a request to take a look at some changes in our bus transportation. Would request that you please read through the document and let us know if there's any questions as well.
Well,
And we
I want
discussed
to
that
talk about
briefly.
that during the work session.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about it at the work session as well. Okay.
And if we have to make it a special meeting to vote, that's fine.
Well, no, you would be voting on it in the regular
Okay,
June meeting.
that's fine.
Which is
I
the
just
following
I would like
Monday.
to have a little bit of a conversation on
Or
that.
did we decide we were voting?
We'd like to get it in June 3rd, but
Okay.
we don't want to push the board.
Because that's actually when we'll adopt the budget, because remember, we turned that June 3rd to a regular special meeting. So it'll be in June 3rd.
Let's be clear. So we have a meeting on June 3rd, which is work session. We have another one on the 10th, which is our regular.
We changed the June 3rd work session to a regular meeting as well as a work session so that we could do the budget adoption that day.
And then we have another board meeting.
Yes, on the 10th.
And then no more meetings until after when? July?
August is usually, you don't have meetings in July usually. to August 3rd or whatever is the first
So we're gonna have
August.
2 weeks in a row, and then we won't see each other for 3 months.
Hey, we can hang out, Chris. Yeah. We can, if you want to go to a road
You
trip
can
or
actually, the board can choose to do something in July. We just traditionally haven't.
All right, anything else from Ms. Wangaman? Any other business that we need to conduct before a motion is made regarding the consent agenda?
I have a question about the consent agenda. I
Yes, ma'am.
asked, did you get, okay, I'm just gonna, the H. Phillips.
Phipps.
Phipps, sorry.
Yeah, it's
GH
for the
Phipps.
mobile classroom.
Is that
Bear
for the
Creek,
mobile
correct,
classrooms?
Cheryl? GH Phipps, it's the mobile classroom for.
Yes, that is correct.
For Bear Creek.
Okay.
Modular, that's the cost for the installation of the modular.
Okay, so my one question for that is, those modulars are going to be outfitted for pre-K. Is there a difference in price between this modulars and the ones that are going to be at the middle school?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
These modulars are generally more expensive because they call it a 5-plex altogether, and that's more expensive for them to produce and for them to install than the 2-plex, the 2 classroom modulars that are going to go into Lewis Palmer Middle and Kilmer.
So it's the size of the modular. It's not the preschool codes that's inside the modular that's more expensive. It's the modulars themselves.
That is correct.
Okay.
I would tell you that some minor adjustments had to be made to make that 5-plex suitable for preschool, but your statement is correct.
Okay, I think to do this right, and, because that's all I'm trying to do, is we need to make a motion to table all of the additional action items or items on here, except for the consent agenda for the next work session.
Next board meeting.
Next board meeting, we need to vote on that, and then we can vote on the consent agenda. Then we can determine whether we want to go into executive session. Does that make, did I do that right? I'm just trying to make sure we do this. So I made a motion to table everything other than the consent agenda.
I will second that motion. Questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. Ms. Lamika?
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Pop.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. Ms. Lamika?
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Pop.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to, does someone have the executive session verbiage in front of them?
Whoever can get there first. I got it. Do we still want to go into executive
We
session?
need to. It will take 5 minutes or so.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to convene an executive session in the Oval Office pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 subsection 4E, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. The board would like to invite Cheryl Wangaman, Karen Broft, and Casey Sommers to join them in executive session. He
Well,
left.
Let's see
Okay.
if he wants to appear telephonically.
He's driving. I don't want to call him.
Okay, that's fair.
It's in the middle of the red zone, and it's very quick.
Okay, perfect.
Do we need a second and a vote on it?
Got it. Chris did it.
Okay. Hey, Ms. Lamika? Ms. Lamika, can we take the vote, please?
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Pop.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Yep.
And we do need to say, just for the record, that we're not going to come back and do any business after.
That's correct.
I wanted to make sure I knew you would be interested in that.
So we're adjourned.